Canon finally delivered pixel shift after years of asking in April of 2023. It was delivered to the R5 through firmware 1.8.1. The feature did require a tripod and couldn't deal with moving objects like leaves or grass, let alone moving vehicles like the Sony a7R5 could. However, there was promise that the R5 Mark II would provide an improved version worthy of an upgrade. But did we get that anticipated update in the R5 Mark II? Or did Canon do the unthinkable? But before we get to the details, please subscribe to this channel. It doesn't cost you anything, helps this channel grow, and keeps you up to date on the latest camera coverage. The Sony a7R5 was the first camera to provide, and this is key here, a real usable pixel shift technology. They weren't the first, but nobody else could deal with moving leaves and grass like they could, let alone with every other day moving objects or subjects like people and cars. When Canon released firmware 1.8.1, I reviewed their implementation of pixel shift called IBIS High Resolution Shoot. And it really did deliver twice the resolution, creating really detailed images. But as you can imagine, there were some caveats. Number one, it only provided you with JPEG images. And number two, well, it required a really good sturdy tripod, otherwise the images were useless. So this new pixel shift or IBIS high resolution mode was only available to people that were shooting product or food or even architecture photography. For anybody else with movement, it just was useless. But there was certainly hope that the R5 Mark II would improve upon this feature. So did they? Well, the funny thing is, I can't find it. Using the Mark I, we can find IBIS High Resolution in the Photo menu on tab 5. And along with IBIS High Resolution, we can see HDR mode. But when we take a look at the exact same menu on the Mark II, gone is IBIS High Resolution and HDR mode. And I know what you're thinking. Ryan's thinking the same thing. They just moved it and renamed it, right? Well, when it comes to HDR mode, they did move that, and it's no longer called HDR mode, it's called HDR shooting. So I figured, well, that's just it. They've taken IBIS High Resolution and they've moved it and renamed it, right? I spent hours looking through the R5 II's manual. I searched on IBIS, but found nothing. Perhaps Canon renamed the feature. After all, IBIS High Resolution doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, not like pixel shift, which actually describes what it does. Perhaps Canon did rename the feature after all and moved it. So I searched on high resolution, picking up every single phrase, including just high alone and resolution by itself, and then of course together. Nothing. I tried other combinations, but I couldn't find anything related to high resolution mode. I even searched on 400 megapixels, 200 megapixels, 180 megapixels. But then I had an idea. Do you recall all those reference charts right at the back of the manual detailing every single photo and video mode? I was sure they had to be in there. But all I could find, the highest resolution mode possible, 44.8 megapixels. So no pixel shift or IBIS high resolution mode on the R5 Mark II then? Well, let's not get carried away. Sony does a good job of explaining pixel shift. The camera takes multiple images at the camera's maximum resolution, 45 megapixels in the R5's case, and then it stitches them together. So we're not going to find any chart at the back of the manual indicating that there's a 400 megapixel mode, and I checked the R1's manual, and yep, sure enough, there was nothing in the back, because in the case of the R5, it takes some 9 images at 45 megapixels in JPEG and stitches them together. So again, I tried using terminology that Sony had used and maybe giving it a Canon spin and searched again, and still yet, I couldn't find anything indicating anything close to a pixel shift technology that we found. So not to give up, I called Canon USA asking if the feature was indeed in the R5 Mark II. Now the tech support person at that point didn't know if this feature was there. They'd been with Canon for a long time, so they knew a lot about different Canon cameras, but they were also at a bit of a loss too because they'd only known about the camera for a very short period of time. So I tried one other call. I called Canon Canada. Well, unfortunately, they seem to have less information than Canon USA. At this point, they still didn't have the manuals that you and I have been able to download and read as references. So he more or less told me that until it starts shipping, they're not going to really know for sure. I know what you're thinking, and I know Ryan's thinking the same thing. That maybe what Canon's gone and done is they've moved it to a different menu, but they've renamed it in a way that even multiple pros haven't been able to figure out where it is, even though they've got production units. Or worse still, that they've deleted the feature altogether. Or actually, worse than that, is they've actually replaced it with that new AI Upscaled feature, giving us 180 megapixels instead of the 400 megapixels that we got in the Mark I. And I get it, there's an awful lot of speculation here because Canon hasn't started shipping the production R5 units yet. So it's still possible that the manual could be based on a pre-production firmware update. And we won't know for sure until August the 20th. I'm starting to get that nagging suspicion, you know the one that tells me somebody at Canon had the bright idea that, you know, instead of improving upon that pixel shift with 400 megapixels, IBIS high resolution, that mode, somebody had the bright idea that, hey, let's use our new machine learning tool, which is great in autofocus, and let's just have it upscale those 45 megapixel images to 180 megapixels. Yeah. And all that feature is doing is it's not providing any more information, but instead it's using a series of algorithms to make up that missing information or to provide a best guess. This image was taken at 85 millimeters on a production R5 II. It's a JPEG. And this image here is the exact same image that was upscaled. And side by side, they both really do look good. You won't notice any anomalies, at least until we punch in. And what you're seeing now are the effects of the AI upscaling a 45 megapixel image. Notice the jagged lines. Sure, we have more information, but it's not really usable. Although the AI upscaled image is better than what I've seen on some other channels that were working with pre-production units. And I have, if you watch Frono's, Petapixel, and other channels where they have shown you these upscaled images, in some cases they look really, really bad when you zoom in. When you're looking at hair, you can see it's doing all these strange things that only a computer would do. And that's why I wanted to show you images, in this case, of a dog like a Shih Tzu, because looking at them, you can clearly see they have a lot of hair. And in this case, it's done a much better job. But as you start to pixel peep, as you start to go into that higher resolution, one thing I do see that I didn't see on the R5 Mark I is you don't get a lot of fine detail. You see some jagged images, you see some other artifacts that are just not present with the R5 using IBIS high resolution. IBIS high resolution provides a much, much better result. And yes, it was limited. When I was doing product photography or food photography, I found it worked really well. And in architectural shoots, it would also work well. But this here, the problem that I have with AI upscaled is that it's proven to be inconsistent with how it delivers. And any technology that can be inconsistent is, well, pretty much useless. It becomes a gimmick. I remember when Gerald Undone was reviewing the Panasonic S5, the first one, and he said the autofocus system has come along, it's faster, but it's still not reliable, it's not trustworthy, it hunts. And because of that, he couldn't recommend the camera. And that's the same thing about this AI upscaled. It has come an awful long way, and I've seen some really good images like the ones I just showed you, showing you, again, take a look here. These upscaled images do look pretty good. But it's all about consistency. When I was shooting with the R5 in its IBIS high resolution, as long as I had a stable tripod and I was shooting remotely, it always produced very good results. And the detail was incredible. You could punch in, you could really see it. So if you ended up blowing this up really, really large, you would see the benefits of it. Whereas with AI upscaled, even if it does it right, once you start to blow it up, you're going to start to see that it's not as clear and sharp as you thought it was. So, Canon, please, I know you've listened to us in the past. Full-size HDMI slot on the R5 Mark II and the R1. Thank you very much. giving us a stacked sensor with 16 stops of dynamic range, and also because of that, giving us Canon log 2. Thank you very much. Removing that slidey button thingy from the EOS R on all future EOS R cameras. Also, thank you very much. I can tell that you're listening to us. And finally, giving us or allowing Sigma and Tamron to produce third-party lenses. Thank you. But I really do hope you haven't removed IBIS high resolution. It's in the camera somewhere under a different name. And if you have removed it, please, in a firmware update before the end of the year, return that capability to us, even if you haven't spent any effort on improving on it. And then maybe in future firmware updates when you have time, improve upon it, please, because what we see in the Sony a7R5 with their pixel shift technology is pretty impressive. And I mean, most of the times 45 megapixels is more than enough, but there are times where it's really handy to be able to punch in. But now it's time for deals of the week. Despite the release of the Canon EOS R5 Mark II at $42.99, the Mark I is only discounted to $400 at $29.99. And while you might think, well, Simon, that's still a pretty decent discount, but just before the R5 Mark II was announced, the R5 Mark I was $500 off. So are we ready for another price decrease? Well, I think we'll see it again at $500 off, but we might have to wait a little bit. And to see more than $500 off, I think you're going to have to wait until Black Friday to see some really incredible deals. However, there's something I really need to bring to your attention. If you're looking at Canon refurbished units, you can see the R5 Mark I sometimes down for $2,200, $2,100, and you're getting the same 1-year warranty. So consider that as well. But it's not just the R5 Mark I that's on sale. The Z8 is $200 off, and I know it used to be $500 off, but when Canon released the R5 Mark II for $42.99, the folks over at Nikon said, why the heck are we discounting our Z8 so much? It's a terrific camera. It has value, and it's valuable at its regular price. So let's knock that discount down to $200 off. But those aren't the only deals. And while we see tons of deals for Nikon and Canon cameras, I've got about 20 links in the description down below. I've tested them out again this weekend. R8, R7, R10, R5, R50, they're all on sale. A lot of sales on Nikon as well. Z7 Mark II, Z6 Mark II, a whole bunch of other Nikon cameras, and even Sony has decided to jump into the act with some deals. I believe we've got $400 off the a7R5, but surprisingly, no deals on the Sony a7S III, a camera that was released 1 month after the the Canon R5 Mark I. So no love there from Sony on the a7S III, so we must be waiting a while before we get a refresher there. But now it's time to say a big thanks to everybody that used my affiliate links and my pre-order links, especially for the R5 Mark II. That's what really supports this channel. It's not from the ads on YouTube. The bulk of the revenue for this channel comes in from using my affiliate links and my pre-order links. And what I love about this, I'm not out there asking you to spend money, to donate money to this channel. Whenever you see a deal and you want to purchase something from Adorama, B&H, or Amazon.com, whenever you make one of those purchases through my links down below, you're not paying anything extra than anybody else will pay. You're not having to fill out any forms, put in any codes, and they send me a small commission which supports this channel. So thank you to everybody that has used those links. It's very much appreciated. And also thank you so much for staying and watching till the end of this video. It's very much appreciated. I'm back at work now, so I might not be as responsive at getting the videos out, but my promise is to at least respond to current market trends within 24 hours. And I've already got an idea for another video that I'll probably record and get out for you tomorrow morning. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have yourself a great week. We're just now 14 sleeps away until you can pick up your Canon EOS R5 Mark II. And if you ordered online, there's a chance that it might end up on your doorstep just a day or two earlier. That's it for now. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have yourself a great day. Cheers.